Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn, Hinderaker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. Once upon a time, you're going to hear about a story today you're not going to believe, and it makes a key point because business people in this day and age need to know how to tell a story, and they need to know how to utilize symbols and metaphors, and I'm going to make that clear to you right now. My name is Lynn Hinderaker, and you are watching, once again, WowBiz Nebraska. This is our 112th or 13th show, whatever it is. We appreciate you tuning in. Now, once upon a time, there was a slice of cheese. A slice of cheese. She was a beautiful slice of cheese, and her name was Velveeta. Velveeta was a lovely child, and she enjoyed her life, and she was very helpful, and everything she did was tasteful. You know, it was tasteful. She never got rude or did anything inappropriate. She was very tasteful. Now, she got a little bit older. Velveeta realized that she was connected to something bigger, right? She was part of something larger, something more substantive than just one slice of cheese. She finally realized that she was connected to a block of cheese. Absolutely, that's right. And it was a very big idea for Velveeta. Now, as she progressed throughout her life, she stumbled across, one day, it was a big day for her, she stumbled across another piece of cheese. And his name was Colby Jack. His name was Colby Jack. Her name was Velveeta. Right. So they kind of hit it off. They saw each other on a regular basis. Things were really very positive. She liked Colby Jack because he was macho and he rolled up his sleeves and he was everything she was not. And Colby Jack loved Velveeta. She was feminine and slim and thin. He would say cute little things to her and she would blush, and sometimes she would be like, kind of yellow orange. You know what I'm saying? When she was blushing because of Colby Jack's comments to her. Very romantic. Well, anyway, as things unfolded, they finally decided they were going to get married. So they chose a minister and they walked down the aisle, and the minister said to the two of them, "Velveeta, do you take Colby Jack as your husband?" She said, "I do." Colby Jack, do you take Velveeta as your wife, as your spouse? He said, "Absolutely." He's kind of a macho guy. And so the minister said, "Great, you're married. Very good. Congratulations." Right? And so life went on happily for these two. And then one day, they found themselves being cracked, right? Cracked and thrown into a bowl. Both of them. Now, this was a very enlightening thing for them because, we all have our persona. We all have kind of a shell around us, and this is the persona or the personality that we project onto people. That's true. Everybody knows that. But beneath that persona or that shell is our essence, the person we really are, the person that we were born as and born to be. But sometimes we forget about who we really are, right? We lose our essence. And so in this particular moment where the eggs were cracked and so on, and there they were in a bowl, and they began to be swirling around in the bowl. Somebody was swirling it. They don't know who that was. And Colby Jack said, "Velveeta, hang on. It's okay. I'm right here." And Velveeta said, "Colby Jack, are you okay? I'm over here." And they swirled around and around and around in the bowl. They mixed it up. Absolutely. We all know how this goes. Now, down the road, some very interesting things happened, right? And what you saw then, the next phase or chapter of Colby Jack's life and Velveeta's life together, were little cubes of cheese, and you saw them at weddings and celebrations, and they were always playing on the floor and on the table with crackers and saltines. Now, this is a ridiculous and silly story. I'm sure you realize that by now, but nevertheless, I couldn't resist because there are so many business owners out there today that don't know how to inspire their employees. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to say it. They're afraid they're going to come across silly. They're just repeating the same old stuff. And they do not know the power, the impact of metaphors and symbols. Because if you talk, particularly to men, but everybody in general, the left hemisphere of the brain, we start telling people about this or that, and it should be this, and this is what we believe in, all that kind of stuff. The left hemisphere of the human brain is going, I've heard that before. That's not really true. He's just laying that on us, blah, 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 right? The left hemisphere of the human brain is trained, like an attorney, to try to find a hole in whatever's being said. That is a fact. However, the right hemisphere of the brain is completely open to any of those kinds of allusions or representations or phrases or metaphors or symbols, whatever. The right hemisphere of the brain loves that stuff. Concepts, intangibles. That's right. So this is the bottom line for this portion of our show here in WowBiz Nebraska, is that you must, in this day and age where there's a lot of anxiety and expectation, and I don't know, are we doing great? Are we doing badly? Who knows? Where are we going, boss? He doesn't seem to know either. That's where we're at today. It's a little bit chaotic in certain ways, and yet others are going, hey, the economy's coming back, things are going well. So it's a very confusing kind of thing. That's why it's so important. The business owners, managers, senior people can inspire the employee and let them know, and by the way, utilizing, of course, symbols and metaphors, as I just did with the cheese. So again, thanks for tuning in. Check us out here on WowBiz Nebraska. And you may want to chat with me down the road, many companies have, and ask me, can you help us pull together maybe a story or two or three? Because we kind of would like to have something to say to our people, but we're just worn out. We just don't know what to say. And we don't want to sound corny or stupid and whatever. So anyway, so that's the name of the game there. And I just want you to know that there is a solution to that, and it's extremely pressing and urgent right now that you learn how to speak to the heart and the right hemisphere of the brain as you move forward with your company. Now, we're going to move on here. I have to tell you this, the state of Nebraska has been struggling for some time through 2 or 3 different governors and so on, and we've lost a lot of people. As you might know, we lose about 4,500 quote, college graduates every year now, as well as hourly laborers are joining them and leaving the state. And it's very nerve-wracking. A lot of people don't have any idea what to do about it and so on. And so I'm going to give you I'm going to use a metaphor. I'm going to do it right now. Nebraska doesn't want to look at it. None of us want to look at ourselves when we feel like we're not doing well, we're not succeeding, we don't look great or whatever. So I'm going to utilize this as a little metaphor right now, and I'll tell you, what Nebraska needs to do is what I'm doing right now. I'm using aloe vera. It's a moisturizer, as we all know, and I'm going to put it on my face right here. It feels great, by the way, very cooling and moisturizing. This is what Nebraska, and again, metaphorically, this is what Nebraska needs to do right here so that we can appear fresh, contemporary, exciting, new, right? The word new is a very exciting word. By the way, some of you are aware that I'm involved with Nebraska. It's a very interesting company, a consulting training firm. And it's so exciting. And people say, well, what's your theme? What's the core thing that you have to say, right? And so for some time, we've been using the phrase, a 3-word phrase. It's called new is now. Right? New is now. New is not before. New isn't down the road. We are here now, see? New is now, as in innovation, new products, new services, new ideas, new people, new talent, new leadership, new objectives. All this. Newness is critical to moisturizing the face, to use the metaphor, of the state of Nebraska. We We cling to the past because we're unsure about what the future holds. AI, of course, is exacerbating that whole trend even more. So we have to understand that the future is now, new is now, but now. There's another phrase we've added to it. We've kind of doubled up on our slogan here at Nebraska. And by the way, that's at nebraska.com. And so we realize people go, well, why is this? Why are we like this, right? Why is it like this? Why aren't we moving forward in Wayne and Beatrice and Nebraska City and Fairbury and Ogallala? And maybe we are, maybe we aren't. Who knows? God only knows, right? They don't call me and let me know, so how would I know if I want my buddy from Des Moines or Akron, Ohio to move to Nebraska? I don't know. Are we ahead of the curve? I'm not sure. Nobody says we are or we aren't. All we hear is that people leave. And so it's a very trust thing. So it's how we think. Now that's not new news, but how we think is critical to how we freshen up our demeanor, our image, our projection, what we're looking for. And how we think has to do with individuals. We like to talk about organizations and groups and so on, but in the end, it really comes down to, the boss or some leader and so on, right? These are the people that matter here, right? They're the ones driving the train forward. And so the second part of the phrase, like I said before, we've been saying new is now, and we believe it, and I believe we're on track there. But I think there's another part of it that we're not speaking, and that is new is you. New is you, right? New is now, new is you. Well, that's a very interesting idea, isn't it, right? So now it's on me, right, to figure out what to do, how to do it, how to move forward. And if we don't do anything, if it's not on me, if I don't accept responsibility for it and so on, then new is not now. New is not now. New's later. New's down the road. So you understand the existential problem we have here. We want to succeed at what we do, but we're reluctant to take a risk, try new things, innovate, etc., etc., etc. That's right. So here we are with our silly metaphor that became extremely serious as we got to the back end of the first part of our show. You may or may not know that WowBiz Nebraska brought to you by Nebraska. Nebraska is NEWBRASKA.com. And I would encourage you to go to the site, check it out. There's a lot of helpful information there about transforming your organization and really adapting your organization. Now, I want to tell you something. I was inspired, my partner and I were inspired in 2018. I'm going to tell you a little quick story here during this promotional segment of our show. In 2018, the Blueprint Nebraska initiative came together. But there's lots of people involved around the entire state. Certainly the CEO at UP was deeply involved. And they wanted to have a plan. They wanted something, and they called it, as I said, Blueprint Nebraska. So they put a lot of time and energy and money, a lot of meetings, and my partner and I showed up at many of them and just listened to them talk about the issues in Nebraska, the problems, the challenges, and so on. And of course, they finally hatched a plan. It was a beautiful plan, very thick, very forward-thinking plan about Nebraska and the future of Nebraska so that we could aim towards something and all get on the same page. However, what happened at the end of that was that everybody went home, and everybody dusted off their hands and said, well, we contributed and now we've got a plan and a strategy and various sectors of our economy are going to be improved and so on and so forth. But nobody actually knew who was going to do anything about it. So I'm going to pull out this right here. Now, the former Economic Development Director, Tony Goins, told us when we introduced ourselves to him and said, Tony, we want to be involved in this project. And he chatted with us for a few minutes because we have a big background in business development, marketing, workforce, and so on. He said, you are my boots on the ground. That was the phrase he used. I'd never heard that exactly before. So here you see a couple pair of boots here. And these are representative or symbolic of boots on the ground. But the idea was we would implement many of the high-minded strategies and plans that were being discussed and put down on paper and so on. Everybody got a copy of the Blueprint Nebraska plan and shoved it in a drawer somewhere, I'm not sure where, but nobody contacted anybody else and said, hey, could you come over to our community and help us implement the Blueprint Nebraska thing? Huh? Anybody help me out? Nobody was saying that kind of thing, and therefore I'm not sure that many of those projects actually have been implemented and serving the entire state. So we are Nebraska. If you're still interested in boots on the ground and would like to get some assistance in your community, we'll get involved with you. That's Nebraska.com. Boots on the ground, absolutely. You know, there's a lot of companies out there right now that are, as I've said before, kind of alluded to at the beginning of the show, a little uncertain about what they should be doing at this moment. They're just not clear. And should we be focusing on the product, or is it all about the people, or should we have a new office, and should we let people stay at home? And I mean, just a lot of questions. So I'm going to talk with you about what we would call the business model, right? The business model. And I'm going to just share this with you. I've got some notes right here, and it's very exciting stuff. And I want you to be aware that, you know, when you sit down with anybody in a business, I don't care if it's just a startup, could be one person, could be a massive corporation, could be Mutual of Omaha, whatever it is, they all have to have a business model. Very interesting. Most of you have heard this before, but a lot of us kind of drift away from it, and we lose our focus. So the business model is essentially 9 components, 9 considerations, 9 dimensions, if you will. And these are all the ways that we, of course, make our companies work, right? It's how we conceptualize it, we create it, we make it happen, and then we look back at it and say, what part of it is working, what isn't working? I don't think this and that is working. So I'm going to just quickly highlight the aspects of a business model right now and briefly talk about them for you, and you'll just go, yeah, I forgot about that part. Now, we start out by customer segments. Now, this is an interesting thing because customers are kind of shifting in their priorities and what they're doing and so on. And of course, some of us are B2B marketers, others are serving consumers and so on. But the key idea is what segments of the population really have kind of a receptivity, right, towards what it is that we create and produce and so on. Are they fast forward people? Are they traditionalists? Are they older? Are they younger? Maybe demographics matter, but maybe only psychographics matter, right? Kind of the mentality and their values and all that. Just depends. But it's really important to segment your customer base and find out, you know, what segments like us, and maybe some segments kind of drift away. Now, the next segment, now we got 9 segments, remember. This is how you evaluate your company. This is how you develop a plan. This is how you decide, you know, we need to have a better value proposition. And that's the next one I'm mentioning to you. A lot of people just don't know how to express it. You know, frankly, there's 3 or 4 companies out there that have a very similar company to ours, and they seem to sell something very similar. So we better pull together a value proposition that differentiates us and, again, creates value so that people go, you know, we got to go with them, of course. I mean, they've got the value, and the rest are just price guys. All right. So the next one, this would be the 3rd out of 9 segments, is the channel. How do you get to people, right? Are you the kind of organization that sits back at home or in your little office and sends out emails all day? Do you go to conferences and trade shows and events? Are those your channels by which you connect and engage with people? Do you make phone calls? Are you buying traditional advertising or untraditional advertising? So it's very interesting. What is the channel? How are we getting to them? Very important. Now, the next segment, or the next piece here, is the customer relationships. Now, this is interesting because if you have a customer, let me tell you, you want them to be happy. You want them to feel comfortable spending what they have to spend. You got to create value with them all the time, but yet you don't really know for sure. Maybe things have changed, and so maybe their version of value isn't the same as your version of value, right? And maybe you need to take them to lunch and ask a few questions, right? So customer relationships are critical. Now, the next segment of our 9 pieces here in terms of the business model are revenue streams. Now, sometimes, of course, we just have one product and we sell it and we have some profit, and then the revenue comes in, right? And of course, we pay our costs, and then what's left over is profit, right? But there might be more revenue streams. For instance, you may have conferences periodically where you share important, interesting knowledge, how to utilize AI to make a difference in your customer operations, whatever it is. So that's on top of your existing product or service, right? Similar things. A lot of different revenue streams are possible. You know, think about the knowledge that goes with the product. If you have a tangible product, you're in manufacturing or whatever it is, there's also this intangible dimension that is part of the whole thing, really, but you don't really talk about it so much. So you want to make sure that you're placing a real value on that as well. Now, key resources, that's the next one in this map, shall we say, or canvas. Key resources are like, well, I mean, obviously you need a facility, you need people, but then you also need equipment of certain sorts. And then there's a lot of people, of course, that are investing in technology. That's a key resource, right? And then there may be trainers over here that kind of need to work with the sales department. That would be maybe a key resource, right? So there's a lot of interesting resources. A lot of people say, we just don't have the resource to grow. We can just keep doing this one thing because we just don't have all the other resources, and therefore we're kind of stuck in this position. All right, now, key activities. We're getting down to the end right here. What is a key activity? Well, some people would say, the Tom Peters would tell you, that getting people together and giving them something to talk about and say, how do we go forward the next quarter, that would be a key activity. The other one would be, let's get together with our customers and have a little party and then ask some questions and have them tell us what they're thinking about, right? Another key activity might be sitting down with recruiters and saying, what kind of people do you think we should be hiring for our company for next year? So these are all key activities and very important. Key partnerships. Now, this is something I love to talk about. A lot of companies don't understand how to form a partnership or an alliance or approach companies and say, is there something we can do together? Everybody thinks they're off in their own little world, and they don't realize they have so much in common, so many different ways they could collaborate, but they don't know how to do it, and what's it worth, and how much money. And then finally, cost structure. A lot of companies sitting around saying, how can we lower our operating costs? What can we drive down? Is it the supply side? Is it the raw material? What are we talking about? What is our cost structure actually? Maybe we're not marking things up enough. And can we do that without losing business? Who knows? So now we have 9 segments, 9 components that go into the business model, the whole Canva, and thinking about, do all of them work equally well? I think that's what I'm trying to say here. Or what is our weak link? I mean, this is a great conversation, huh? Take a look at all 9 segments, Harry. And you too, Susan. Tell us what the weakness is and tell us what our strength is on this big map with 9 boxes, basically. And tell us what's weak, what's strong, what do we have to do in this segment, that segment. This is a map of our company and a map of the future of our company. And of course, if you're working for that company, it's a map of your career. Yes, it is. All right, so those are the 9 building blocks. And if you're ever interested in chatting with us, let us know further. We'd love to visit with you in your offices or over a cup of coffee and really talk deeper about one of the building blocks that's really been a limitation and an issue for you. Well, that's been an interesting show right here, WowBiz Nebraska. We started out with a metaphor, an example, a symbol. We talked about Blueprint Nebraska. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Lynn Hinderaker. I look forward to seeing you next time right here on WowBiz Nebraska. Thanks for watching.